Please join the band in singing the national anthem.
Join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance
to the States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. As a KAY member, I would like to welcome you to the 25th Annual Veterans Day Program. Northern Valley has had a long-standing tradition of honoring our veterans, and I am proud to help carry this out this year. In 1994, the Northern Valley KAY organization asked to be part of Norton's Veterans Day Parade, and the superintendent at this time would not allow it. So Ms. Susan Lowry began hosting our own program. This is our national service project and one of the KAY's members most loved.
Would you please bow your heads this morning? Dear Heavenly Father, I'd like to thank you for this day to honor the veterans that have served and are still serving our great country today. With all the roads that were bad this morning, I'm glad everybody made it here safely, and I hope everybody can return home just as safe. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
We would now like to recognize the individual military branches. Veterans, please rise as your song is sang.
to a service call. Soldiers young and soldiers old fought for freedom, brave and bold. Some have lived while others died. All on them deserve our pride. We're proud of all the soldiers who kept thinking of red, white, and blue. They fought for us and all our rights. They fought for the many days and nights. And who we may not know each name, we thank all veterans just the same.
I am part of the Star-Spangled Stitchers, and I am here to introduce Regina Stark. She's the one that got us going on this, and we make quilts for the veterans. So Regina.
I'm very honored to be here today. It's a cold, blustery day outside, but it's still a wonderful day to celebrate the veterans in the heartland of America in Norton County. I am glad to be able to share the background of the Quilts of Valor organization and the Star-Spangled Stitchers. I am Regina Stark. I am a daughter and a sister of veterans and a coordinator for the Star-Spangled Stitchers. To give you a little background about the national organization, the founder, Catherine Roberts, in 2003 had a son in Iraq. And one night she had a dream. And her dream consisted of two parts. The first part was of a young soldier sitting on the edge of his bunk, totally in despair, with the demons of war floating around him. The next scene of her dream was that same young man sitting there with hope in his eyes because he was wrapped up in a quilt. From that, when she woke up, she said, "It must be the quilt that helps." From there, she got around with some of her quilting friends, and they started making quilts. And in 2003, the first Quilt of Valor was presented at, what's my place here? At the Walter Reed Medical Center to a young soldier from Minnesota who had lost a leg in Iraq. From there, the whole thing just blossomed out. It spread to quilters all over the United States. Some of them just sent quilt tops to Mrs. Roberts, and there was quilters, long-arm quilters, who said, "We will quilt them." And then there was ladies that bound them. And then it turned into local groups who said, "We will take care of our area." As we look at the veterans who received the quilts, they vary from all branches and when and where they served. Today, we didn't have a Coast Guard person here, I don't think, but give us until February and the first Coast Guard person in Norton County will get their Quilt of Valor. You got that, Harry? Okay. He'll later come up and do some things for us. When we look at the veterans, they have served in all different places, but all of them did the same thing. They signed an oath of enlistment that said they would vow to put down their life or anything else to support our country and the people that live there. That's our whole basis of presenting Quilts of Valor to the different branches. So far, the national organization in 2019 has given away 25,049 quilts, and we still have 2 months to go. Since the inception in 2003, it's mind-boggling to think that they have presented 235,519 quilts. In May of 2016, LaVon McCormick and I, who are friends and fellow quilters, were talking about how we could use our quilting skills and share with others within Norton County. Almost in unison, we said, Quilts of Valor is what we want to do. So we sat down and we brainstormed. We made a list of about 20 women within the county who we thought might be interested. Some of them told us, no, I do not have the time right now. Some of them said, well, maybe I could help occasionally. And then we had a group that said, we're in. We are willing to make quilts for our veterans. And so from there, the Star Spangled Stitchers was born. We set up some parameters because we knew it was going to be a big project. I think maybe when we started that LaVon and I thought, oh, maybe 100. We were so far off from that number. We had to develop some parameters, like I said. So number one, they have to live within the boundaries of Norton County. Number two, when we give away the quilts, we give them away to the oldest ones first and then start down the line. There's been a couple of times that they weren't exactly in the right order, but when you have 4 guys that were friends all through high school and belonged in the same Alameda area, with 3 of them graduating from Alameda, we said, okay, we're doing all 4 of those guys together. And yes, because I was a teacher for many years, I looked at those guys and said, I will set you together if you promise you will behave yourself. And they did very well. In July of 2016, we presented our first 4 Quilts of Valor at the fairgrounds in the Norton County Fair. One of those quilts is hanging over there first in the line. The American Legion Riders from the very beginning have asked us how they can help. They've been by our sides in honoring the veterans every time. They post the colors for us. They give away their medals to the guys. It's very awe-inspiring and brings tears to your eyes when at the Norton County Fair, you look up to the top, because we're down below on the little concrete slab. You look up to the top and you hear the rumble of their motorcycles. And here come those motorcycles, those American Legion riders, and those American flags going in the breeze. And they make that circle around and do that honor guard. It brings a tear to my eye every time. The riders have been at every presentation we have had, including private ceremonies. Our process begins by choosing the recipients, and we're always looking for names, and names are always popping up for us. And we just slide them into wherever their age's enlistment goes on. From there, a quilter says, I will make his quilt. Sometimes it's a family member, sometimes it's a friend, sometimes it's a neighbor down the street, sometimes it's somebody that none of us are acquainted with because they're new to the community. But when their time comes up to get their quilt will be made. Prior to the presentations, I send a letter out to the veterans saying, this is what we would like to present to you. This is the date. We need some information about your background. Please call me and let me know that you're willing to accept your quilt. Because yes, unfortunately, sometimes we have gentlemen or ladies that say, no, I think I'll pass. Once they get a hold of me, then the person who made their quilt, and that quilt comes from their stash. When we first started out, probably the first 3 presentations, the quilters furnished the quilting, everything, and gave them to the veterans. We did finally get some funding. Right from the very beginning, there was the American Legion Riders who said, we'll give you some seed money. Then with money from the Hanson Foundation and some other good donations, we were able to give a little bit back to our quilters, but not nearly enough to cover the costs. It comes from their hearts. We send the quilter out to interview the veteran because we want to know something about his story. We want it to be more than he went into the service at this time and he was taken out at this time. We want to know something interesting, and interesting things have been found. I now know that in Vietnam, the airplanes were painted camouflage on the bottom, camouflage on the top and blue on the bottom because it was harder for the enemy to see. I understand that when one guy told me that when he landed in Hawaii, he had his job they told him he was going to do, but then he saw the little thing that said they was looking for bakers. Okay, he had helped his mother do some cooking at home. He trotted off, and by the time he was done, he was a baker, he was a chauffeur for a gentleman, and I think there was a couple of other things in there that he had done. The stories are wide and scared, and it's fun to listen to those gentlemen tell their stories. And they are willing to tell their stories. So for you young people that are in here, if you know a veteran, ask them. When we was setting up breakfast this morning, one of the Northern Valley K members was visiting with a veteran, and I heard her asking him some questions about where he had been. As I was sitting over there waiting to come up here, a couple of the veterans behind me were sharing a story about the time they was in service. Those are wonderful stories that they tell you. If a veteran is not able to go to a presentation because of his health or his fitness, we have done private presentations. We go into the home, we ask if they want family to be there. Yes, the American Legion Riders are right there with us, helping to present our Quilt of Valor. We have gone to the Amby home to exclusively do residence there. We've gone out to Whispering Pines and did presentations there. We did some other presentations, public ones, at other places. We went to the library in their meeting room, and as we had people stuffed in there, I happened to look at the little sign on the wall that said maximum occupancy, I think it was 45. We had about 70 crammed in there. Then the American Legion got their new building built, and they said, come on ladies, let us help you and we will give you a place. And so now most of our presentations are at the American Legion building. Being a part of making quilts, interviewing veterans and telling their story is a blessing to all the Star Spangled Stitchers. The things we have learned have been numerous. The pride in showing the veterans that we care and appreciate their service to make this country safe for all of us. With today's presentation, we will have presented 142 quilts in just under 3 years. We are still looking for veterans who live in Norton County to add to our list. I laugh because every time I update my list, I guarantee you within 24 hours or less, somebody will come in and say, here's a name, here's a veteran. And then it's up to me, because many of them say, no, I don't know when he or she went in, no, I don't know what branch they're in. And unfortunately, no, I don't know their telephone number or address. If some of you young people in here want to be an entrepreneur, you need to figure out how to make a phone book with cell phone numbers. Because some of those numbers are hard to find. As names are given, you can give us any names. We currently have names up to, I think it is 2004, of veterans. And if an older veteran comes in, we just slide their name. We have about the original 100 names on our list still to go before we get finished. But we know that unfortunately we will never be quite finished. Names can be given to me at Stitch Up a Storm in Norton. I am in the phone book. To Pauline Polk here in the Valley community, or any Star Spangled quilter. Our next presentation will be in February. At this time, I will turn the remainder of our program over to LaVon McCormick, representing the Star Spangled Quilters, and also Harry Rivera with the American Legion Riders. We will be honoring 3 veterans today who have children or grandchildren within the school system, and another veteran who is an integral part of the Valley community. LaVon?
Thank you. A quilt of valor is a quilt with honor. A quilt is made with 3 layers. The top of the quilt with its many colors represents the individuals we are. The batting, the filler, is the center of the quilt, its warmth. The backing is the strength that supports the other layers. Each stitch that holds the layers together represents love and gratitude. The ladies that make these quilts have many hours getting these made. From a flat piece of material, cut it, sew the pieces together to bring forth a beautiful quilt. Now's the time to see the quilts made for our veterans today. As our presentation unfolds, I will introduce the maker and the veteran to tell their story. After the presentation of the quilt, the American Legion Riders will present a challenge coin. Our first one is Charles Francis Visaka, and we'd like to have you come up and stand, and Pauline Pope.
Charles Francis Visaka was born into a military family in Leon Air Force Base, France. Charles enlisted into the United States Air Force March 1978 at Lackland Air Force Base, Texas. Charles went to boot camp at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, then went to Keesler Air Force Base in Biloxi, Mississippi as a technical training. He was stationed at Royal Air Force Chicksands, England, Misawa Air Base, Japan from 1980 to 1983. After his tour in Japan, he was stationed in Hawaii at Wheeler Air Force Base. He also served in Germany and Holland. His last duty station was Holloman Air Force Base in Alamogordo, New Mexico. He was there from September 1985 to September 1992. While at Holloman Air Force Base, he served in Saudi Arabia as part of Desert Storm. Charles was trained for the Morse Code Systems operator. While there, he also in the supply station. Everything that comes in and goes out has to be counted. Charles was honorable discharged in September 1992 with the rank of Staff Sergeant. Charles said he is most proud of serving his country and participating in Desert Storm. After getting out, he came to Norton and started working at New Age. While in Norton, he married Lori and had two children, Shaylee and Robert. Charles is very active in his children's lives, also always going to all the games and taking part in the community. Thank you, Charles, for your service.
Our next veteran is Dave Rose Ford. Would you please come up?
Dave Ross Ward was inducted into the United States Army on February 26, 1969 at Denver, Colorado. At that time, anyone from Decatur County and west went to Denver for induction, and anyone from Norton County east went to Kansas City. After picking up guys in Hoxie, Colby, and Goodland, they headed on to Denver for induction. Dave received his 8 weeks of basic training at Fort Lewis, Washington. From there, he was sent across the road from Fort Lewis for advanced infantry training. Dave was in the 1st Infantry, which was part of the troops that President Nixon sent to Vietnam. After arriving at Vietnam, he received sniper training. Later, he was transferred to the 4th Division for his last 7 months. Here, he was assigned a job of patrolling at night to stop the Vietnamese from planting mines. One of the things Dave was the proudest of was making the rank of sergeant in 5 months. He said he met a lot of great guys who looked out for each other, and he was thankful to make it home in one piece. The highlight of his tour of duty was getting to see Bob Hope Christmas show in 1969. Dave was discharged from the Army in October of 1970 at the rank of E5 Surgeon. He received the following military honors: Vietnam Service Medal, 2 Bronze Stars, one of which had a V engraved in it for Valor, Good Conduct Medal, CIB Badge, which is a combat infantry badge, and Expert Rifleman on the M16 and M14. After flying back to the United States, Dave was anxious to get home, so he went to the airport early. After dropping off his baggage, he went to the bar in the airport and ate and had a few drinks. Then he went to the gate from which he was to depart and fell asleep. Thinking someone should surely wake him up, it was time to depart. Later did he know they announced the change of gates while he was asleep, so his baggage was on the plane, but he wasn't. So he went to the bar and got another drink and told the bartender to make sure he didn't miss his next flight. The bartender told him to write his time in his drink coaster and he would make sure he got on his next plane, and he did. He made the last jaunt home and on a 6 to 8 passenger plane and eventually made it to Hays, where his family met and took him home. Dave, thank you for your service in this great country, the United States of America. Was drafted into the U.S. Army on May 5, 1970, in Kansas City, Missouri. He served in Korea working on tanks and personal carriers. He trained as a tank mechanic at Fort Knox, Kentucky, and Fort Leavenworth, Missouri. One of Daryl's memories is a Sunday afternoon with his comrades. Suddenly, a North Korean sniper started shooting at North Korean guard. 15 American soldiers in civilian clothes started running through the hills with M16s. 10 truckloads of South Koreans slowed down, and one by one the soldiers jumped out of the trucks. Daryl drove a personal carrier with 6 of the American soldiers that was chasing the sniper. They surrounded the village but never found him. Daryl was honorably discharged in November 1971 at Fort Lewis in Seattle, Washington with the rank of Specialist 4th Class.
Is a label, your picture, and a note that will tell you a little about your quilts. Someone special has made your quilt, and they have stories to tell about making it. But as of today, the story of this quilt becomes your story. Thank you for your service and allowing us to honor you in a special way. As our presentation comes to an end, we would like to say thank you to Almena Caves Club, Almena School for inviting us for this time, the American Legion Riders for their support, to the Star Spangled Stitchers and their friends and family who donated their time, knowledge, and materials who have made these quilts. All veterans, all of you, thank you for your service. Thank you.
We would now like to honor area veterans who died in service to their country. At this time, we will honor and pay respect to those who have paid the supreme sacrifice, their life. Most of us have never met these men, but their sacrifice must never be forgotten. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for a friend. World War I. Roy C. Goodrich. Paul D. Winnell. Roy Elson. Russell Knapp. Joseph Liggett. Orrin Chesser. World War II. John H. Vandermeer. Alvin W. Mills. Howard W. Smith. Wayne J. Mathis. Max Clickenbeard. Jack Fitzgerald. Rex Runyon. Jack Eckhart. Cecil Sawyer. Kenneth Bright. Korean War. Harold Pillsbury. John Harvey. Dale Serbs. Vietnam War. Glenn McCubbin. Mike Donovan. The center candle is lit for the unknown soldier. Please join us in a moment of silence.
please stand for the retiring of the colors.
Thank you to our veterans for their service, and thank you to all of you for coming.